Judgment by Ken Mallow. Chapter 1. The Awakening. The jungle heat of Mindoro clung to Corporal J.R. Augusto Casimiro's skin like a second uniform. Rain lashed the canopy overhead, turning the military outpost's red dirt into slurry. At 25, J.R.'s eyes still held the earnest determination of a new Philippine Army graduate, but his knuckles were white around his rifle. The orders crackled over the radio. Clear Sector 7 point. Hostile tribal resistance suspected. Hostile. The word tasted like ash. He'd seen the satellite images, thatch huts, children's footprints in mud, the ancient forests the Bahagan tribe called home. Not insurgents, guardians. His platoon moved like shadows through the emerald gloom, the scent of wet earth and decaying leaves thick in their nostrils. Sergeant Delgado's hand signal halted them at a ridge. Below, smoke curled from a hidden village. Remember, Delgado hissed, no witnesses. The president's brother wants this land cleared by sundown. JR's grip tightened. The Bahagan, his mother's lullabies had whispered of their wisdom. Now, he was ordered to erase them. Chaos erupted. A grenade, tossed from unseen hands, arced through the downpour. JR lunged, shoving a young private behind a moss-crusted boulder. The blast was a physical thing, a roar of heat and shrapnel that slammed him into the mud. Darkness swallowed him, then light, not the jungle's filtered green, but a radiance that seared his closed eyelids. An angel stood before him, wings not of feathers, but of woven storm clouds and sunlight. J.R. Augusto Casimiro. Its voice resonated in his bones, not his ears. Blood of Yud, son of Clopas, heir of David's hidden branch. The covenant lives in you. Visions flashed, desert caravans, a desperate sea voyage, a dark-skinned woman with Bahagan tattoos hiding a crying infant, his ancestor beneath bamboo floors as Spanish boots stormed the shore. The lineage sheltered, waiting. He awoke choking on blood and rain. Pain screamed from his ribs. Above him, a Bahagan elder with eyes like cracked obsidian daubed his forehead with bitter herbs. The rock spared you, soldier, the elder murmured, but your own commanders will not. The hut smelled of smoke and crushed ginger. Outside, screams, automatic gunfire. JR staggered to the doorway. His platoon was advancing, bayonets fixed on Bahagan women shielding children with their bodies. Sergeant Delgado's voice cut through the rain. Burn it. Burn them all. JR's hand flew to his holster. Empty. His rifle lay in the mud. The angel's words echoed air. Covenant. Without thought, he ran. He threw himself between Delgado's raised machete and the Bahagan girl. Stand down. JR roared, his uniform plastered to his skin. The Philippine flag on his sleeve a grotesque parody. Delgado's laugh was a bark. Traitor. The bullet tore through JR's shoulder, spinning him to the ground. Blood warmed the cold mud. He gasped, staring at the swirling gray sky. Was this the purpose? To die uselessly? Then a hiss. Not from the sergeant, from the earth itself. Emerald vipers, hundreds of them, poured from termite mounds and flooded roots. They flowed like a living river over Delgado's boots. Soldiers screamed, batting at scaled bodies coiling around legs, thighs, throats. Guns fired wildly into trees. JR watched, breath ragged, as the snakes ignored the Bahagan completely. A viper brushed his wounded arm, not a bite, but a caress. The elder knelt beside him. The forest knows its king, he whispered. You are the one the last elder prophesied before he joined the ancestors. The son of David who walks among thorns. The surviving soldiers fled, abandoning jeeps and weapons. Silence fell, broken only by the rain and the Bahagan's soft weeping. JR lay shivering, the snake's touch still tingling on his skin. The elder, whose name was Apa Ilig, bound his shoulder with jungle fibers. They will hunt you now, like they hunted your bloodline for centuries. JR touched the mud-streaked flag on his arm. The symbol he'd sworn to protect had ordered genocide. His identity: soldier, Filipino, Catholic, shattered. Only one truth remained, seared into him by vipers and visions. I am J.R. Augusto Casimiro, descendant of kings, protector of the Bahagan. Where do we go? He rasped. Apelig's gaze drifted east, toward the sea. Home, child, to the island of your birth. Ramblan holds your next trial, and your first miracle. The journey was a fever dream. They moved by night through suffocating jungle. Bahagan scouts melting into shadows JR couldn't penetrate. His wound burned. Visions flickered at the edge of sight. Roman eagles. A shepherd boy holding a sling. A man weeping in a garden. Not my will, but yours. A voice not his own whispered in the wind. Apelig fed him bitter roots that blurred pain into prophecy. The soldiers call you deserter, the elder said as they hid beneath a waterfall's thunder. The government will name you terrorist. The priests will call you blasphemer. Can you bear these crowns, son of Joseph's forgotten brother? JR clutched the damp earth. He thought of his mother in Alcantara, hanging laundry beneath coconut trees. Unaware her quiet son carried a lineage that would shake empires. I bear what I must, he said. Dawn found them on a stolen banca, the outrigger cutting through waves like glass toward Ramblan's distant blue silhouette. JR watched Mindoro shrink behind them, the island where he'd died as a soldier and been born as something stranger. Apelig chanted softly, sprinkling crushed shells into the sea. The waters remember, he said. They carried your ancestors from Jerusalem's ruin to Mindoro's shores, and now to your redemption. The sea is your blood's road. Salt spray stung JR's wound. He touched the bandage. Redemption. The word felt too clean for the mud and blood staining his soul. He hadn't saved the Bahagan village, only scattered bones and ash remained. He'd traded his honor for a destiny he didn't understand. Ramblan's cliff rose like weathered fists from the sea. As they neared Alcantara's cove, JR saw his childhood. The white church spire, the mango trees heavy with fruit, the path where he'd chased goats instead of insurgents. Apelig's hand gripped his arm. Hide your wound, hide your purpose. The serpent's enemies have long ears. They beached the boat in a hidden inlet. JR stumbled onto sand, knees buckling. The elder caught him. Rest, then climb. He pointed to the island's highest peak, Tablas's mystried summit. Meet your God in the high places, as Moses did. He waits for you with fire and a sword. JR hid in the sea caves until dusk. Memories haunted the shadows, his father's calloused hands teaching him to net fish, his mother's rosary beads clicking as typhoons roared. Simple faith, simple love. Could it survive what he carried? At moonrise, he began to climb. Thorn vines tore his skin. Boulders shifted beneath his boots. Halfway up, pain and doubt overwhelmed him. He collapsed against an ancient narrow tree. Why me? He screamed into the wind. I'm no king. I'm no savior. Lightning split the sky, a silent, blinding fork that struck the tree beside him. Not with destruction, but transformation. Flames erupted, not consuming the wood, but purify it, turning bark into swirling gold, leaves into emerald glass. A voice spoke, not from the sky, but from the burning heart of the tree. You are the branch they thought was cut off. In wilderness, I forge my weapons. Climb higher, JR. The skull and the soldiers await. Ramblan's judgment begins with you. He climbed through the night, the burning trees light his guide. At the summit, dawn bled across the archipelago, 100 islands scattered like God's own jewels. Exhaustion vanished, clarity struck like the lightning. Below, Ramblan slept, 12 municipalities, 200,000 souls, unaware that divinity had anchored itself on their shores. JR raised his hands, not in prayer, but surrender. The vision descended, golden skull, Roman steel, his own severed head held high by a soldier laughing with the tycoon's face, martyrdom. The price, wind howled around him, carrying the scent of ozone and distant rain. He knew what came next, miracles, betrayal, a fog that would choke the unworthy. The soldier within him saluted the life he'd lost. The air within him knelt. Then let it begin, JR Casimiro whispered to the rising sun. For the Bahagan, for the line of David, for Ramblan. Chapter 2. The Exodus. Salt crusted JR's lips as the banka carved through midnight waves, Ramblon's shadowed peaks clawing at a starless sky. Behind them, Mindoro smoldered not just the Bahagan village, but the life he'd incinerated. Apailag crouched at the prow, chanting prayers older than Spanish galleons, while Bahagan survivors huddled beneath frayed tarps, their eyes hollow with trauma. JR clutched his bandaged shoulder, the viper's phantom touch still coiled beneath his skin. Protector, the word mocked him. He'd saved 12 souls. Dozens lay buried in ash. A child whimpered, and JR flinched. My fault. The army would hunt them. The president's brother would silence them. And the priests. He saw his mother's face, kneeling at mass in Alcantar's whitewashed church, unaware her son was now heretic, deserter, king of snakes. Appa, he rasped. Ramblin has soldiers too. Police. My face is on recruitment posters. The elder didn't turn. Your face, he said softly, is now the face of a ghost. Let the sea bury it. Dawn bled across the horizon as they skirted Ramblon's northern cliffs. Alcantar's church spire speared the pink, light a beacon of everything. JR had betrayed. Apailag steered them not toward the fishing docks, but to a fissure in the rock face, hidden by snarling sea figs. The cave of whispers, the elder murmured, where your great-grandmother hid from American patrols. Inside, the air tasted of wet stone and centuries. Faint carvings flickered in torchlight, a star, a shepherd's crook, a fish swallowing a crown. David's symbols, hidden in Ramblon's belly. JR traced them, the stone cold beneath his fingers. They knew. Fragments, Apailag said, whispers passed mother to daughter. The full truth died with the last elder in 2020. He spoke your name with his final breath. Casimiro, the soldier who bleeds for the thorns. JR's knees buckled, not from pain, from the weight of generations waiting in darkness for him. For 3 days, they lived like cave dwellers. Bahagan women foraged limpets and seaweed. Men set crab traps in tidal pools. JR's wound festered. Fever dreams stalked him, Delgado's machete glinting, vipers weaving a crown for his head, a golden skull whispering. The mountain calls, air of sorrows. On the fourth dawn, Apailag pressed a pouch of bitter seeds into his hand. Climb Mount guiding. Find the spring where the first rain fell. Fast, pray, let the mountain scour you clean or break you. JR stared at the peak, its summit shrouded in storm clouds. What if I break? The elder's eyes were flint. Then David's line dies here, in a sea cave, and the world drowns in the siblings' greed. The ascent was crucifixion. Thorn vines lashed his arms. Granite slopes gashed his boots. Halfway up, monsoons hit not rain, but liquid fury that turned paths into torrents. JR crawled, fingernails tearing on wet rock. He hallucinated, his army platoon jeering. Cardinal Luis Antonio intoning Latin condemnations. The tycoon's laugh echoing in thunder. Blasphemer, traitor, fool. By dusk, he collapsed in a high valley, mud sucking at his limbs. Above, the summit vanished behind bruised clouds. Meet your God in the high places, Apailag had said. JR screamed into the gale. Where are you? Show me or let the rocks bury me. Lightning answered a searing fork that split a century old. Malik 3 yards away. Not fire, but gold bled from the charred wood, forming a dripping, skeletal hand pointing. Higher. Day 7. Hunger gnawed his stomach raw. First sandpapered his throat. He found the spring a mere trickle down mossy stone. As he drank, the vision struck. Roman soldiers in Mindoro's jungle, not with rifles, but short swords and eagle-crested shields. They dragged Bahagan children into iron cages. JR charged, but a centurion backhanded him, his teeth splattering blood on ferns. The pretender dies today, the soldier sneered, his face morphing into the president's. JR woke gasping, his mouth full of the coppery tang of vision blood. A test, he whispered. Only a test. But the golden skull's whisper slithered back. All tests become truth. Son of Copus. On the 40th dawn, JR stood on Guiding's wine-dripped summit. Ramblin sprawled below emerald islands stitched by turquoise seams. Exhaustion had sanded his mind blank. No prayers left, no strength, just a howl of emptiness. Then the earth shifted, not an earthquake, but a sigh. A patch of stony soil near his feet crumbled, revealing not rock, but polished gold. He dug with bleeding fingers. There it lay, a human skull, life-sized, wrought in flawless gold. Eye sockets filled with solid shadows. David's crown, a burial relic, his death mask. Before he could react, the vision engulfed him. He stood in a desert canyon under a pitiless sun. The golden skull glowed in his hands. Roman soldiers closed in, their shields locking into a wall of bronze. JR raised the skull toward heaven, a desperate offering. It melted, not into liquid, but into light searing. Liquid radiance that poured into his eyes, ears, mouth. Knowledge flooded him. The 90-day fog, the suffocating judgment. 70% of Ramblin gasping their last. The price of purity, a voice echoed in the light. Pain, vast and cold. He saw his headless body crumple. A soldier lifted his severed head by the hair, and it was the tycoon, grinning. Finally he hissed, "The land is mine." JR lurched back to reality, gasping, the golden skull cold and solid. In his grasp, martyrdom, not metaphor, prophecy. His knees hit the rocks. Why show me this? To break me. He hurled the skull. It struck a boulder, clanging like a funeral bell. "I won't die for them." He roared at the clouds. "I didn't ask for this." Thunder growled. Rain began, icy needles on his skin. First, sudden and desperate, clawed his throat. He stumbled downhill, following the sound of water. He found the stream, a silver ribbon in a moss-choked ravine. JR plunged his face into it, drinking like a parched animal. As he lifted his head, dripping, the sky exploded. Not thunder, lightning. A bolt struck a towering coconut palm 10 paces away. But it didn't shatter. It transformed. Flames erupted, not orange, but blinding white gold, consuming the fronds without consuming the wood. Within the fire, a voice spoke. Not sound, but vibration in his bones, his blood. JR Augusto, son of the hidden branch. The skull you saw is your obedience. The sword is your sacrifice. In 90 days, the fog will descend on Ramblin. IT will separate breath from breath, the faithful from the rotten. 70% will choke on their greed. 30% will build my ark. Martyrdom is the seed, not the end. Through your blood, the 300 will rise. Now stand, walk, unite the 12. The judgment begins at your homecoming. The fire vanished. Only a steaming, blackened palm remained, leaves gone, trunk radiating warmth. JR touched it. No burn, only peace, terrible and absolute. The golden skull lay where he'd thrown it. He picked it up, not a curse now, a covenant. Below, Alcantar slept, unaware that death's countdown ticked in the hands of a soldier-turned-prophet. He tucked the skull inside his tattered shirt. It rested against his heart, cold, heavy, final. The fog, the suffocation. My blood, God had spoken, not in parables, but in skulls and fire. JR Casimiro turned his back on the mountain. His footsteps down the trail were no longer fugitives. They were a king's walk to the gallows. And his first miracle, he'd start where he'd once chased goats. Luke, where fishermen drown. For the 30%, he whispered to the golden weight on his chest. For the ark? Chapter 3, The 12 Miracles. The road to Luke smelled of rotting seaweed and diesel. JR walked alone, the golden skull a cold weight against his ribs. Apaeleg's warning echoing. They will call you Brullo or Santo. Fear both. Luke's harbor was a graveyard of upturned boats. 3 days prior, Typhoon Odette had gutted the fleet. Now fishermen knelt in the mud, mending nets with shaking hands. Mayor Limit, the small man with eyes like wet pebbles, wrung his cap. No aid from Manila. The president's brother owns the shipping lanes. He wants us bankrupt, so he can buy our coast cheap. JR watched a widow scrub salt water from her child's photo. The voice on the mountain whispered, "Calm the storm for those drowning in its wake." He stepped onto the shattered pier. Waves gnawed at the pilings like hungry dogs. "Gather your boats," he said. Limit blinked. "The sea's still furious. We'll die." JR faced the horizon where clouds bruised the sky. "You've been dying slowly. Today, you live." 12 bankers ventured out, engines sputtering against the swell. JR stood in the lead boat, spray stinging his face. When the squall hit, it was biblical walls of water lifting boats like toys. Fishermen screamed prayers to Santo Niño. JR closed his eyes. Not prayer, command. He raised his hands, palms open to the fury. "Peace." The word wasn't loud, but it cut through the wind like a blade. Instantly, the waves flattened, not subsided, froze, as if God had pressed pause on the chaos. Sunlight speared the clouds, turning the sea to liquid gold. Fish leapt in the sudden calm. Lapu Tamban, silver flashes of abundance. In Book 3, old man Tomas crossed himself, weeping. Dio's call. It's the calm of 1521, when Magellan's priest stilled the waves. JR lowered his hands. The sea stayed placid. "Cast your nets," he said. They hauled in tons, a miracle not of spectacle, but survival. By dusk, Luke's plaza smelled of grilling fish. Mayor Limit knelt in the gutted muck, pressing JR's muddy boot to his forehead. "In aiming bayan nine gaon," he breathed. "Our town is yours now." Santa Fe's hills were dust. Weeks without rain had cracked the earth like shattered pottery. Capitan Elena, her duster dress faded to gray. JR passed fields of withered corn. "The tycoon's dam upriver," she spat, "stole our water for his golf course. Our children drink mud." JR touched a crumbling stalk. The golden skull pulsed against his ribs, a reminder of the drought to come. "Not yet," he pleaded silently. "Give them hope first." He climbed the bone hill where locals said a Dewata slept. At the summit, he pressed his palm to a sandstone outcrop. Heat radiated through him. "A spring here," the voice guided. "Dig." Villagers watched, skeptics murmuring. JR scraped at rock with bare hands. Minutes passed, only blood and dust. Elena turned away, then gasped. Water bubbled from the stone. Not a trickle, a gush. Cool, clear, impossibly sweet. It flowed downhill, filling irrigation ditches, reviving crops before their eyes. A boy cupped it, laughing. "Too big, NG Langit. Heaven's water." That night, Capitan Elena nailed the tycoon's eviction notice to a revived mango tree. "Tell your master," she told his trembling foreman. "Santa Fe drinks holy water now." Alcantara was personal. JR's childhood home. His mother, Aling Maria, met him at their nipa hut. Her eyes red. "Your father won't see you. He burned your army portrait." Beyond the bamboo fence, two families, the Casulas and the Ferreras, hurled rotten lanzones at each other. A land feud older than JR, fueled by the tycoon's bribes. "They'll kill each other by harvest," Aling Maria wept. JR entered the fray unarmed. A Casula youth swung a bolo. JR caught his wrist. "Tito Ben," he called to the Ferrera patriarch. "Remember when you carried me piggyback through typhoon floods?" Silence. He turned to the Casula matriarch. "Nene Cora, your Biko saved my 10th birthday." Shame flickered in their eyes. JR hauled tables into the street. "Cook, eat, together." Reluctantly, they obeyed. Adobo from the Ferreras, Sinigang from the Casulas. As the sun set, JR stood, holding Biko from both families. One island, one blood. He mashed the sticky rice cakes together. "Ito ang Ramblin. This is Ramblin." The gesture was absurd. "Holy." Tito Ben hugged Nene Cora, both sobbing. JR's father watched from the shadows. His son's burned photo clutched to his chest. Odiongan's crisis was invisible. In the bustling market town, people collapsed, wasting fevers, bleeding gums. Dr. Santos, sweating behind a makeshift clinic desk, confirmed it. Dengue, worsened by expired medicines the tycoon's company had dumped. He profits from our pain, she hissed. The golden skull vibrated a warning. GR felt eyes on him, a man in a black suit snapping photos. Cardinal Luce's spy in the clinic. GR knelt beside Teresa, a girl of 7, skin translucent, veins black beneath her eyes. Her mother gripped his arm. Hemalalangi and Dimakakaligtas Kanya. She begged only a miracle. GR laid hands on Teresa's brow. Heal her, not for show, for her. Warmth flowed from his palms. Teresa's eyes fluttered open clear, bright. The black veins receded like tide. Gasps rippled through the ward. Others reached for him. Ako Rin Po. Me too. GR moved bed to bed. With each touch, fever broke. Strength returned outside. The man in black crossed himself. Phone pressed to the ear. Eminence, it's true. He heals like the Gospels. Farrell's heels bled red. Not from violence, from the tycoons mining robots, chewing ancestral lands into open wounds. Tribal markers lay shattered. Karomi and Etta Elder pointed a trembling finger. They moved the boundary stones, stole 3 hectares. A bulldozer growled, shoving sacred Nara into pits. GR faced the foreman, whose shirt bore the tycoon's dragon logo. Stop, the man laughed. Or what? Call your snakes. GR knelt, pressing his palm to a toppled marker. Show the truth. The earth trembled. Along the true boundary, wildflowers erupted. Sampaguita, Calachuchi, yellow bells in a razor-straight line glowing with unnatural light. The bulldozer's blade hit the flower line and shattered like glass. The foreman stumbled back. Witchcraft. Karomi wept, kissing the flowers. Ienga Bulikik and Enganenuno. Flowers of the ancestors. That night, drones spotted the glowing floral border from space. The tycoon screamed into his phone, burn it, burn that fucking garden. Santa Maria's coast was poison. Neon green sludge lapped the shore. Chemical runoff from the president's brother's factory. Children had rashes. Fish floated belly up. Activists chained themselves to factory gates. Ignored. GR waded into the toxic surf at dawn. The sludge recoiled like a living thing. He scooped a handful viscous, stinging. Be clean. The sludge in his palm turned clear, then evaporated. He thrust both hands into the sea. A shockwave of pure white light radiated from his fingertips. Where it touched, the green poison vanished. Water sparkled. Dead fish sank, replaced by shimmering schools of Malasuji and Talakitak. On the beach, a boar with blistered legs stepped into the surf. The blisters faded. He laughed. Lamin. It's cool. By noon, the factory's pipes clogged with crystalline salt. Production halted. The president's brother filed a terrorism complaint. San Agustin hit its rod. Mayor Zaldi smiled for cameras while his treasurer, Bong, siphoned disaster funds into Manila casinos. Orphans starved in evacuation centers. GR strode into a council session. Zaldi beamed. Ah, our miracle worker. Bless our new budget. GR pointed at Bong. Empty your pockets. Sweating, Bong pulled out cash, keys, a phone. See, clean. JR's gaze didn't waver. The right pocket. Bong froze. Reluctantly, he pulled out a crumpled voucher. Zaldi snatched it, a receipt for diamonds, bought with relief funds. Before he could shred it, GR spoke. Let shadows speak truth. Bong's shadow on the wall detached. It mimed, counting cash, hiding vouchers, whispering to Zaldi. The real Bong screamed, trying to stomp his own shadow. Zaldi fainted. The next mayor, elected that week, was a widow from the evacuation center. Her first act, feeding every orphan legend. Calatrava's despair was a fog thicker than the coming judgment, remote and forgotten. Its youth huff blew beneath ipilipil trees. No jobs, no hope, muttered Barangay Captain Lito. Then, 3 teens vanish hiking Mount Fools. Search parties failed. GR gathered families at the trailhead. Pray with me. They did, half-hearted. GR lifted his face to the starless night. Light their way home. 1 star blazed, the life not a star, but a piercing orb of white fire hovering over Azul's peak. It paused, beckoning. Rescuers followed. They found the teens hypothermic but alive in a cave, guided by the orb's warmth. When the last teen emerged, the light streaked down, striking a glue sniffer's stash. It ignited into harmless lavender smoke that smelled of ylang ylang. The youth coughed, their eyes clearing. "Paran, Yokomaha," one whispered. "I don't want this anymore." Captain Leto hung JR's photo beside the Virgin Mary. "Indiating a law," he declared, "all light." Ramblin, the capital. Governor Estrada's mansion gleamed with tycoon-funded marble. Inside, Estrada watched news reports. Luke's calm. Santa Fe's spring Odiongan's healings. His phone rang the president himself. "Crush him, Rico, or my brother crush you." Outside, GR faced not a plaza, but a wall of riot police. Cardinal Luce's envoy, Monsignor Cruz, pointed a bony finger. "Blasphemer, you steal Christ's miracles." Behind him, paid protesters waved signs, "Fake prophet, go home, Snake Man." GR felt the golden skull's icy kiss. "Martyrdom begins here." He didn't shout. His voice carried like a bell. "You steal children's medicine. You sell ancestral land. You call me thief." He stepped forward. Police raised batons. Then a sigh from the sea. Fog rolled in. Not the coming judgment fog, but a thick, pearl-gray mist smelling of sampaguita and salt. It swallowed the square, blinding police, silencing protesters. Within it, GR glowed faintly. Monsignor Cruz choked. Clawing his throat, the fog thickened around him like a fist. "Only the guilty fear truth's mist," GR said. Governor Estrada stumbled from his mansion, gasping as the fog cleansed his lungs of cigar smoke and lies. He fell to his knees before GR. "Stop, please. I resign. Just make it stop." The fog lifted instantly. The plaza was empty except for Estrada weeping at GR's feet. From a limo, the tycoon's assassin lowered his rifle, trembling. "Targets protected," he radioed. "By what?" The reply crackled. "By something older than bullets." Chapter 4. The Judgment Fog. The fog didn't drift, it slammed down on Ramblin like a coffin lid. One moment, Governor Estrada knelt weeping on sun-baked plaza tiles. The next, pearl-gray tendrils snaked from the sea, swallowing streets, muffling screams, plunging the island into twilight at noon. It wasn't mist. It was presence, thick as wet wool, smelling of ozone, and something ancient, burnt cedar and myrrh. GR stood immobile as the fog swallowed the governor whole. Epilogue materialized beside him, a shadow in the swirling gray. "It begins," the elder murmured, his voice strangely clear in the muffled world. "The breath of God separates wheat from chaff." From the harbor, a ferry's horn blurred a strangled, dying sound. Then silence, utter, complete. Ramblin vanished. Only the golden skull's icy pulse against JR's ribs reminded him he hadn't gone blind. Panic struck Luke first. Fishermen who'd feasted on miracle caught fish now clawed at their throats on the docks. Mayor Limit stumbled from his office, gasping, "The air, it's thick." He inhaled deeply, a fatal error. The fog congealed in his lungs. He collapsed, eyes bulging, fingers scraping concrete as he choked on invisible tar. Around him, others who'd taken tycoon bribes to sabotage rival boats suffered the same fate, drowning on dry land. But old man Tomas, who'd wept at the calm of 1521, breathed easily. He gathered gasping children, pressing their faces to his chest. "Small sips," he croaked, "only what you need." The fog recoiled from his humility like smoke from water. Odiongan's hospital became a charnel house. Dr. Santos watched in horror as Monsignor Cruz, who'd condemned JR as Antichrist, staggered down the corridor, cassock drenched in sweat. "Exorcizo te," he gagged, spraying holy water that evaporated before hitting the floor. The fog poured into his mouth. His skin turned slate gray. He collapsed, suffocated by the very holiness he'd weaponized. Nearby, a nurse who'd sold patient data to the tycoon. As pharmaceutical scouts died clawing at the gift, crucifix around her neck, the chain embedded in her flesh. But Teresa, the girl JR healed, slept peacefully, the fog curling around her cot like a protective shroud. "It knows hearts," Dr. Santos whispered, clutching her stethoscope like a rosary. Alcantar broke JR. He found his father, Mang Ben, slumped against their nipa hut's door, face blue, not from fog, from the bottle of lambina beside him. Pa JR ripped the door open. Inside, Aling Maria knelt praying, fog swirling around, but not within her radius. She looked up, eyes clear. He refused to forgive himself for disowning you. JR dragged his father inside. The fog retreated from the threshold. Mang Ben convulsed, vomiting fog-blackened phlegm. "Why? Save me," he rasped. JR cradled him. "Because love isn't earned. It breathes." Outside, Nene Cora, whose fugue JR ended, wailed over Tito Ben's body heat. Tried looting the Ferrar store, thinking chaos had sighed. The fog choked him mid-theft. Governor Estrada's mansion became a tomb. Trapped inside with his tycoon-gifted marble and bribes, he panicked. He ordered police to fetch oxygen tanks. They never returned. He called Manila. Lines dead. On day 3, he smashed a window. Fog poured in like liquid concrete. He died crawling toward a gilded statue of the president, fingers inches from its feet. In the capital slums, though, Barangay Captain Rosa, who'd secretly fed orphans with stolen tycoon rice, organized fog survival drills, breathe shallow, sheer air, hide nothing. Her shantytown's survival rate, 89%. The siblings struck back from a yacht offshore. The tycoon watched radar show Romblin vanish. Deploy the Culam unit, he ordered. 3 speedboats carried Babalan witches paid in gold, chanting backwards Latin and Tagalog curses. They hit the fog bank at dawn. Instantly, their protective, anti-anting amulets glowed red-hot, searing flesh. The lead witch shrieked as the fog invaded her sinuses, carrying not just judgment, but counter-curses, visions of her own strangled victims. Her boat drifted back out hours later. Crew suffocated, her corpse twisted into a ritual knot. "God protects his own," Cardinal Luis muttered in Manila, reading the report. He fingered his rosary, the dream of the messy Messiah haunting him. JR weeping over corpses, fog like a shroud on his shoulders. Apalag emerged. As the remnants Moses, he led survivors to high caves, not hiding, but gathering. "Share everything," he commanded. "Food, water, truth." The fog couldn't penetrate deep caves, but its pressure purified intentions. Holders choked, liars gasped, but those who confessed, a fisherman admitting he poisoned a rival's nets. A teen returning stolen pond south found air clearing around them. Communal farms sprouted in valleys less fog choked. They planted camote, gabi, yub crops needing little sun. "We are the 30%, Apalag preached, pruned to bear fruit for the world." The dreams started on day 45. Vincent, Odiongan's medic, dreamed of a cave behind Luke's Bone Hill, a voice like flowing water. "Bring your hands, heal the broken." Ray, a reformed Acute thief from St. Augustine, dreamed of a lightning-struck bleak tree, a voice like grinding stone. "Cast out what festers in men's shadows." Christopher, a mute goatherd from Calatrava, dreamed of wolves guiding him to a sea-washed cavern. A voice like wine through pines. "Speak to the beasts. They hunger for justice." One by one, 300 dreamers navigated the fog not by sight, but by an inner compass humming with divine frequency. The cave of whispers became their Gethsemane. JR waited as they arrived, dirty, trembling, radiant. "This cave birthed your ancestors," he said, Apalag translating. "Now it births your purpose." Vincent touched the carvings, the star, the fish, the crook. Power surged through him, a warmth in his palms that mended a girl's sprained ankle instantly. Ray recoiled as shadows deepened. A spectral figure, a politician he'd blackmailed, materialized, whispering lies. "Banish it," JR commanded. Ray Ward, "in the name of the living breath, leave." The shade dissolved. Christopher approached a wounded bat. He thought his command, *be well. The bat took flight, brushing his cheek. The cave thrummed with unleashed potential and terror. Power without purity is damnation, JR warned. Confess. All of it. The reconciliation broke them. For days, screams echoed in the caverns, not of pain, but soul-rending honesty. Vincent admitted letting a rich patient jump the dengue cure. Boy died waiting. Ray confessed to abandoning his sister to traffickers. Christopher, signing frantically, revealed he'd poisoned a rival's goats. JR presided, not as judge, but witness. God's fog suffocated lies, he said. Now breathe truth. They fasted, wept, prayed, forgave themselves and each other. On day 89, as the fog outside began thinning, JR gathered them. The world calls Ramblin' cursed. They will hunt you, torture you, kill some of you. He touched the golden skull beneath his shirt. But you are the 300, the breath of God. In human vessels, go, heal, cast out, speak, and know. His voice dropped, thick with his own unconfessed burden, the vision of his beheading. The greatest miracle isn't survival, it's surrender. Outside, the first shaft of sunlight in 3 months pierced the fog. It lit the cave mouth like a portal to war. Chapter 5. The Silent War. The fog lifted from Ramblin' like a receding tide, revealing an island reborn and scarred. Fields lay fallow where hoarders had choked. Empty mansions stood like rotten teeth. But in Alcantara's barangay plaza, Aling Maria distributed camote and yube from communal plots to the 30% who'd breath purified it. Her eyes, when they met JR's, held no triumph, only sorrow for the cost. Apatleg approached, holding a satellite phone scavenged from Governor Estrada's corpse. Manila calls Ramblin' Quarantine Zone Alpha. No ships in, no planes. We're dead to the world. JR touched the golden skull beneath his rough barong. Then we'll resurrect it through the 300. Send them out, silently. That night, 299 small boats slipped past the Philippine Navy's blockade, guided by Christopher's dolphins. Only JR remained the anchor and the bait. Vincent's destination pulsed in his dreams. Dharavi, Mumbai. Follow the coughing. The slum welcomed him with open sewage and the rattle of dying lungs. A new plague, locals whispered Kalazukum, the black cough, rendered airborne by monsoon floods. It drowned victims in their own blackened flan. Vincent found a clinic run by Sister Anjali, her sari stained with sputum. Pharma companies price gouging the antidote. She rasped, herself infected. Vincent laid hands on a shivering boy. Warmth flowed. The boy sat up, coughing clear mucus. Sister Anjali crossed herself. Up fresh ho. Are you an angel? A fisherman's son? Vincent smiled. News spread. Crowds mobbed him. But when Times Now reporters arrived, Vincent vanished, guided by a dream of lepers needing him in Dhaka. Sister Anjali told cameras, God sent a ghost. Remember Ramblin', Central African Republic. Ree's dream path led through hell. General Nzito's child soldiers, high on Bilibili powder, prowled the scorched savannah. Their eyes were hollow not from hunger, but possession. They feast on fear. His dream voice warned. Ray found the camp, skeletons in oversized fatigues. AK-47s clutched like toys. Zito, draped in hyena pelts, chanted over a blood-drenched altar. My Ndoki spirits make them fearless. Ray stepped forward. They make them empty. He raised his hands, not in prayer, in command. In the name of the living breath, leave these children. The air crackled. Shadows detached from the boys, forming jackal-like shapes snapping at Ray. He didn't flinch. You have no name here, no power. Fade? The shadows shrieked, dissolving into sulfur-tinged smoke. Buoys dropped their guns, weeping, suddenly small and terrified. Zito roared, firing his golden pistol. The bullets stopped midair, dripping molten lead. Ray walked away, boys clinging to his legs. Zito's own hyena pout turned, biting his throat. The Amazon. Christopher stood before the tycoon's bulldozers, their dragon logos gleaming. Behind him, the Xingu chief Aurora trembled. They killed the forest, poisoned the river. Christopher closed his eyes. Not silence a call. Howler monkeys shrieked warnings. Jaguars slunk from emerald shadows. Tapirs stabbed. Then the crack of snapping timber. 1,000 army ants, each the size of a thumb, swarmed from the canopy. They flowed over bulldozers like black coal, clogging exhausts, chewing wires, stinging operators into panicked flight. Aurora stared. Christopher signed. The forest fights back. That night, drones filmed bulldozers abandoned and covered hulks. A Xingu boy spray-painted on one. Ramblin' lives. The hashtag went viral. Hashtag Ramblin' lives trended beneath the president's speech about Chinese aggression. Manila's Malaccagang Palace felt like a war room. The president paced before maps of the West Philippine Sea. Admiral, why are our ships retreating? Admiral Cruz swallowed. Sir, sonar reports. Disturbances, like asterisk whales, asterisk, hurting our vessels. The president slammed his fist. Whales don't hurt. China's using underwater drones. Cardinal Luis entered, grin. Disturbances reported globally. Mumbai's plague vanishes. Africa's demon general eaten by beasts. Your brother's Amazon operation destroyed by insects. All tied to Ramblin'. The president whirled. Coincidence. Propaganda. Luis placed a tablet playing Vincent's Healing in Dharavi. Look at his face. He glows like the catacomb saints. The president recoiled. Burn that island, nuke it. Luis grabbed his arm. And if God shields it again. You saw the fog. The president froze. Fear raw and primal flickered. He whispered, then find me a weapon God can't stop. The tycoon found it in Prague. Zerner Altic the Black Altar, 15th century chapel, repurposed by Bohemian Satanists. The high priest, Carol, smiled over bones. Blood calls to blood. You share this Casimiro's lineage. The tycoon spat into a chalice. Distant, very distant. Carol stirred the spittle with a dagger. Distance means nothing to the void. We break the covenant protecting in. At midnight, they chanted backward psalms over David's genealogy reconstructed from Vatican. RCHIVS bought by the tycoon. Carol slit a goat's throat over JR's name. Sanguis pro sanguine. Blood for blood. In Ramblin', JR jolted awake. Pain lanced his neck, the phantom cut from his vision. The golden skull under his pillow burned like dry ice. Apilag rushed in. The ancestors weep. Something cuts the bloodline. Cardinal Luis defied Rome. Disguised as a coconut trader, he bribed a fisherman to breach Ramblin's blockade. What he found shattered his theology. Alcantara. Parish priest Father Raymond, once a drunkard, now taught children scripture under a mango tree. His homily on the loaves and fishes punctuated by him multiplying pond de sal for lunch. The Cave of Whispers. The 300s reconciliation. Chamber still hummed with palpable holiness. Luis touched David's carved star. His rosary beads glowed warm. Gr. Luis found him harvesting sweet potatoes with mangben. No halo, no rogues, mud-caked hands. A farmer's stoop. Why let 70% die? Luis demanded. Gr's eyes held bottomless grief. Why did God flood the world? Some branches are too rotten to save the tree. Luis knelt, not in worship, but despair. The church condemns you. Gr offered a sweet potato. The church condemned Christ to eat. Eminence, truth is hungry work. The president's victory operation in the West Philippine Sea became a global joke. 5 warships, sent to assert sovereignty, were herded into shallow reef by a pod of orcas. Their sonar scrambled, engines mysteriously failing. Chinese state TV filmed Filipino sailors rescued by flood divers. Admiral Cruz shot himself in his cabin in Manila. Protesters hurled rotten fruit at Malaccagang. Ramblin' protects. Our president protects China. The president, on national TV, blamed planet-induced marine aggression. Off camera, he called his brother, the Ghost Island did this. And it, the tycoon's Prague ritual bore poison fruit. In Ramblin, children of the 30% began sleepwalking toward cliffs. Livestock attacked owners. Apalad identified the taint. They've cursed the lineage. Only David's blood can break it. JR knew the cost. That night, he climbed the guiding summit with a ceremonial crease. Under moonlight, he sliced his palm, letting blood drip onto the stone where God spoke. My blood for theirs, my life for the covenant. The earth drank it. The sleepwalkers woke screaming but alive. The golden skull flared white-hot, searing JR's chest with a marker radiant. Homicide Tsar, Apalug saw it and wept. The martyr's brand, it begins. The 300 felt it, a seismic tremor in their spirits. Vincent, setting in the Nepali leper's bones, dropped his scalpel. Ray, calming a riot in Quito with his presence, clutched his cross. Christopher, guiding elephants away from Kenyan poachers, froze in their dreams, a unified vision. JR kneeling on Mindoro shore, Bahagan warriors at his back, the tycoon's mercenaries dressed as Roman legionaries aiming rifles, a golden skull shining like a star on JR's brow, a sword rising. Vincent packed his herbs. Ray blessed the rioters and left. Christopher whistled for his elephant herd. The silent war was over. The final battle for the son of David's hidden branch had begun. Chapter 6. The Beast and the Bishop. Mindoro shore at dawn. Blood-red waves lapped over black sand. JR stood barefoot. The Bahagan warriors Apalug at their head, forming a silent phalanx behind him. They held no rifles, only bolas and woven shields. Before them, the tycoon's Roman legion, disembarked, 50 mercenaries in polished breastplates and crimson cloaks, faces hidden behind grotesque eagle-crested helmets. Their rifles, modern and sleek, mocked the ancient aesthetic. At their head strode Centurion Marcus, a South African warlord whose neck bore the tycoon's dragon tattoo. JR Casimiro, his amplified voice boomed across the bay. By order of the Republic, you stand accused of sedition, terrorism, and blasphemous impersonation of the divine. Surrender, or your savages die. JR stepped forward, the golden skull warm against his skin. I am JR Casimiro, son of Alcantara, blood of David, I surrender. Apalug's cry tore the air. Hindi, but JR walked calmly toward the rifles, arms wide, a fisherman walking into a storm. The Legion's prison was a converted Manila warehouse owned by the tycoon. Chains bolted JR to a steel chair beneath a flickering neon cross, a sick joke. Centurion Marcus removed his helmet, revealing scar tissue where ears should be. The boss wants a show, a modern passion play. Electrodes clamped to JR's temples. The first shock tour gasped from him. The second, a scream. Vincent materialized like smoke from a ventilation shaft. I'm here, Captain, he whispered, laying hands on JR's seared flesh. Muscle reckoned. Burns vanished. Marcus laughed. Heal him again, which? The shocks intensified 10,000 volts. Vincent healed, tears cutting through grime, until his own hands blistered from channeling too much power. JR rasped, stop. This body is not yours to save. Asterisk, asterisk, free. Asterisk, asterisk. Cardinal Louis stormed the Vatican's secret archives. Dust rising from shattered seals. Show me Codex Daviticus, he demanded, the trembling archivist. The lineage of Clopas, brother of Joseph. The parchment, brittle as dried skin, confirmed it. A branch fleeing Jerusalem in 70 AD to Islas del Poniente, islands of the west. A marginal note, custodiado por los Mangans, guarded by the Mangan. Luce's faith cracked. In his dream, the messy Messiah had bled on this same parchment. He booked a flight to Manila, clutching a vial of earth from Gethsemane. Marcus escalated. Break his spirit. Mercenaries forced Bahagan captives, elders, children into cages before GR. Renounce your divinity or we burn them. GR closed his eyes. Ray, now, from the warehouse shadows, Ray stepped forth. He didn't shout. He sang a low, guttural Bahagan dirge. The mercenaries clutched their helmets. Inside, the amplified whispers of their victims, Afghan orphans, Congolese miners they'd slaughtered, echoed. Make it stop, one screamed, firing wildly. Ray advanced, the song peeling back layers of possession. In the name of the living breath, reveal the rot. Marcus drew a pistol. At Tamaral Mindoro's endangered wild buffalo smashed through the wall, goring in. Christopher stood atop it, signing, "The forest repays its debts." The tycoon watched via drone feed in his Makati penthouse. Enough theater. Staged the finale. His command, execute GR at the Bahagan Sacred Grove, where the lineage first landed. Legionnaires dragged JR, Vincent, Ray, and Christopher to the clearing. Ancient belit trees formed a natural cathedral. Marcus, bandaged and raging, aimed his rifle. Nil, false king. GR knelt, not to Marcus, to the earth. He dug his fingers into the soil, pulling free the golden skull. It blazed with inner light. For the covenant, he whispered. Marcus fired. The bullet struck the skull and melted. Liquid gold flowed over JR's brow, forming a molten crown. He rose, radiating terrible light. You wanted divinity? Behold. Cardinal Luce's helicopter touched down in chaos. He sprinted past burning Legion vehicles. Christopher's hornets driving mercenaries into the sea. He reached the grove as Marcus, foaming with prog-induced demonic strength, charged GR with a gladius sword. The void claims you. GR didn't move. The sword pierced his side, a grotesque replay of the centurion's lance. Vincent screamed, healing energy flaring. But the wound reopened instantly. Martyr's blood. Ray tried exorcism, but the prog curse shielded Marcus. The skull, GR. Apeila cried. Fulfill the vision. GR lifted the golden skull crown high. Ama, sa kanaling embakame, ipanakakatwila koa indi iking espiritu. Father, into their hands I commend my spirit. Marcus's sword rose for the decapitating stroke. Lightning struck the skull. Not once, thrice. Blinding light exploded outward. Marcus vaporized, his demonic enhancements shrieking into nothingness. The legionnaires dropped, unharmed but weeping, their violence purged. The golden skull fused permanently to JR's brow. Crown of light, illuminating the grove like a fallen star. Then GR collapsed, the crown's light dimming. Blood pooled around the wound no power could close. Cardinal Luis reached him first. He cradled JR's head, ignoring the searing heat of the crown. My son. GR's eyes fluttered open. Eminence, tell them, the 300 are the church now. He pressed the Gethsemane vial into Luce's hand. Plant this, where I fall. His breath rattled. The crown's light focused into a beam stabbing the overcast sky. Across the globe, the 300 felt it. Vincent in Dhaka, Ree in Quito, Christopher in Nairobi. They fell to their knees as one. In Mumbai, Sister Anjali's slum clinic filled with golden light. Shingu warriors saw the beam from the Amazon. Hashtag Crown of Light trended worldwide, bypassing government firewalls. The tycoon watched the feed in primal terror. Nuke the site now. But his command console flashed, access denied. The crown's beam had fused his systems. Gold ingots in his vault melted, flowing under his door, trapping his ankles. He screamed as the molten gold climbed a gilded tomb, filling his lungs. In Malacca, the president stared at the sky beam. Admiral Cruz's ghost appeared at the window, seawater dripping. Your turn, he whispered. The president grabbed his ceremonial pistol and found it, transformed into a crucifix. He fled, mobs already scaling the gates. Dawn. Cardinal Luis stood over JR's grave, a simple mound in the sacred grove. He'd planted the Gethsemane earth. Already, a sapling pushed through, a narrow tree with golden leaves. The 300 gathered, the crown's light now distributed among them, a soft glow in their palms or eyes. Apilag approached Luis. What now, Padre? Luis touched the Nara's radiant leaves. He'd burned his cardinal's robes. Now he wore simple cotton. Now, he said, his voice carrying the weight of a toppled world and a reborn one. We build the kingdom, not in Rome, not in palaces. Here, he placed his hand over Vincent's glowing palm. Ree's exorcist scars, Christopher's signing fingers, with the breath of the 300 and the blood of the son of David's hidden branch. The crown's light, now a constellation in their souls, pulsed like a heartbeat across the waiting earth. Chapter 7. The Kingdom of Breath. The sacred grove on Mindoro breathed differently now, where JR's blood had soaked the earth. The Nara sapling from Gethsemane unfurled leaves of spun gold, casting prismatic light through the bolete canopy. Cardinal Luis Antonio, no longer a prince of the church, just Luis, knelt beside Apilag, planting camote cuttings around its base. Not a shrine, Luis murmured, dirt under his nails. A simbahan and Gilupo, a church of sorrow. Bahagan elders wove walls from bamboo and ramblan vine, open to the sky. No crucifix hung here, only JR's last words, carved into living wood. NG 300 ANG simbahan Ngayon. The 300 are the church now. Vincent, Ray, and Christopher stood at the grove's edge, the crown's light pulsing softly within them, Vincent's palms aglow, Ree's shadow unnaturally deep, Christopher's eyes holding the stillness of forests. Where do we start? Vincent asked. Luis touched the golden Nara leaf, where he fell, with breath, not stone. Manila's smoky mountain. Vincent climbed the reeking trash slopes where JR once healed dengue orphans. Typhoon debris had reignited the plague. Corpse collectors piled bodies. Vincent didn't hide his glow this time. He pressed luminous hands to fevered brows, shouting, "The breath heals. Not for profit, for capo, shared humanity." Crowds followed. A PharmaCorp sniper's bullet tore through Vincent's thigh. He pulled it out, flesh knitting instantly. "See," he laughed, blood sizzling gold on the trash. "The light doesn't bleed, it spreads." When PharmaCorp thugs torched a shantytown, Vincent led thousands to occupy their gleaming tower. He didn't destroy it. He transformed its lobby into a clinic where executives, children sat beside scavengers, breathing the same purified air. The CEO resigned, handing keys to Sister Anjali. Her first decree, free medicine for all, paid for by emptying the tycoon's frozen accounts. Kinshasa, Congo, Ray faced a different demon. General Nzito's cannibal warlords, orphaned by Ree's earlier exorcism, had pledged to Sombra Negra the black shadow hunting cobalt mines. Ray entered the mine shaft where children chipped or under whips. Sombra Negra coalesced a shifting void with CEO faces, tycoon allies chewing ghostly coltan. "You hunger. Eat this," Ray hissed. He didn't chat. He breathed. The crown's light within him streamed out, not as beams, but as living scripture. Aramaic, Tagalog, Lingala, scorching the void. Sombra Negra shrank, vomiting swallowed souls. The warlords dropped their whips, weeping for mothers they'd butchered. Ray didn't forgive. He pointed to the children. "Your chains are theirs now. Dig them out." Former warlords carried malnourished kids up the shaft under Ree's shadow darkness that now protected. Wall Street, New York. Christopher stood before the tycoon's skyscraper, now seized by #Crown of Light activists. He didn't speak. He called. From Central Park, 1,000 squirrels swarmed the building. Rats deserted subways to gnaw server cables. Pigeons carpeted windows, blocking trading screens. The Dow crashed. CEOs screamed into dead phones. Christopher signed to a news drone. The beasts reclaimed stolen ground. He led protesters planting wildflowers in the marble lobby. Hedge fund managers, stripped of digital tethers, wandered dazed into community gardens. Some kept digging, their hands remembering soil. A banner unfurled, Romblin trading post, wealth measured in breath, not Bitcoin. The West Philippine Sea. Luis sailed with Apa Eleg on a repurposed Navy patrol boat. No weapons, just Bahagon fishers, and the golden Nara sapling in a clay pot. Chinese Coast Guard ships approached, water cannons primed. Luis raised JR's woven shallacot hat. We come to plant peace. Apelag scattered Romblin sea salt onto the waves. Christopher's orcas surfaced, nudging Chinese hulls gently but irresistibly aside. On Scarborough Shoal, Luis planted the sapling. Its roots at coral land spread, shooting golden tendrils underwater, forming a luminous reef where fish swarmed. Chinese sailors lowered binoculars, crossing themselves. Admiral Wang radioed Beijing. Sir, the shoal is singing. Satellite images showed the reef pulsing like a heartbeat. Manila and Beijing declared it a shared sanctuary of breath. Luis's first diplomatic treaty. Vatican City. Pope Gregory XVII watched #Crown of Light healings flood social media. Cardinals demanded condemnation. Gregory opened Luis's smuggled package, a vial of JR's blood-soaked Mindoro soil, a golden Nara leaf, and a USB drive showing Luis washing a Bahagon elder's feet. The Pope knelt in the Sistine Chapel. We were the stone, he whispered to Michelangelo's Christ. They are the breath. Next Sunday, he stunned the world. The Church of Rome relinquishes temporal power. Let our treasures feed the poor. Our palaces house refugees. Our faith breathe. Swiss guards dropped halberds, joining soup kitchens. The Vatican Bank dissolved, funds flowing to Vincent's clinics. Traditionalists rioted. Gregory smiled, tending his new window box herb garden. Let them rage. The kingdom grows in cracks. Rambon's Judgment Fields, where Governor Estrada's mansion once stood. Communal rice terraces now fanned down hillsides. Aling Maria taught Manila street kids to plant heirloom Balatino rice. Make each grain a prayer, she said. Mang Ben, sober and scarred, forged plows from melted legionnaire armor. But shadows lingered. Former fog survivors whispered, "Why did I live?" Nightmares choked sleep. Ray arrived, guided by dreams. He gathered them at midnight in Estrada's ruined ballroom. The fog judged deeds, he said. Now judge yourselves. He breathed out not light, but shared darkness. The ballroom became a collective dreamscape. Each person relived their worst act. Nang Ben disowning JR, a fisherman poisoning nets. They screamed, wept, confronted their ghosts. Ray didn't absolve. He stood beside them in the dark. Now breathe through it. Dawn found them exhausted, hollowed, but clean. The first true sleep in months. The Amazon's new war. Christopher sensed the chainsaw shrieks. First illegal loggers, funded by Pharmacorp remnants, slashing toward the golden Nara reef. He stood alone, arms wide. Jaguars flowed from green shadows. Anacondas coiled in logging paths. Howler monkeys rained excrement. But the lodgers wore demonic anting Prague's last curse. Jaguars recoiled, snarling at unseen barriers. Christopher's hands trembled, too far from the crown's heart light. Then a hum, Vincent's healing glow, amplified through Sister Angeli's Mumbai clinic, streamed via satellite into Christopher's chest. Ree's exorcism chant, echoing from Kinshasa mines, fortified his spirit. Luis's prayer from the Scarborough Shoal reef anchored in. The 300's light converged. Christopher's signing became a command shout. Break. The anting shuddered. Jaguars leapt. The forest reclaimed its butchers. The first breath council. They gathered not in a hall, but under Mindoro's golden Nara, now 20 feet tall. No flags, no titles. Luis, Apelad, Vincent, Ray, Christopher, Sister Anjali, Admiral Juan retired, a Xingu chief, a former Pharmacorp VP, and a Manila scavenger all equal. They sat on woven mats. Issues flowed. Kenyan herders need drought-resistant seeds. Manila's addicts need Ree's shadow healing. Scarborough's reef needs protection. Decisions weren't voted. They breathed. When consensus resonated, the Nara's leaves chimed. Vincent proposed dissolving all armies. The leaves stayed silent. Apileg amended, turn armies into Earth Healers disaster response. Rewilding, the tree sang. Christopher signed, let beasts guide city design. The Nara glowed. Sister Anjali, call it the breath accord. Golden pollen showered them. Luis wept. JR's blood had birthed a governance of guided breath. Alcantara at dusk, JR's nipa hut stood open. Inside, Mang Ben polished the crease that drew JR's covenant blood. Oling Maria wove a bannig mat from golden Nara leaves. Outside, children played Bahagan and Legion. But the legionnaires always surrendered, embraced, and planted trees. Luis arrived, footsore from walking island paths. He placed a new dream on JR's bamboo altar, a sketch of interconnected breath chapels worldwide grassroots. Open air, centered on healing and shared meals. Apileg added a Bahagan prophecy stick. When the 300 become 3 million, the second wind rises. Christopher touched the hut's threshold. Ants carried a fallen Nara leaf inside, placing it on JR's sleeping mat. Oling Maria smiled. He visits. They sat in silence as fireflies awoke not just insects, but tiny sparks of the crown's light, dancing in the warm, breathing dark. The kingdom wasn't built. It grew, one breath, one healed wound, one surrendered chain at a time. Chapter 8. The Second Pentecost. 5 years after the crown's light scattered, the world breathed easier but not yet free. The breath accord governed without borders. Former soldiers terraced mountainsides in Mindanao. Wall Street bankers taught compost chemistry in Detroit. Vatican librarians digitized suppressed texts in open-source breath archives. Yet shadows festered. In Prague's underground, Carol the occultist whispered over vials of JR's dried blood stolen from the tycoon's vault. In Manila's ruins, a rogue Pharmacorp faction engineered gray fog, a synthetic smog to induce despair. And on Ramblin, the golden Nara tree shivered. The roots feel it, Apileg told Luis by its luminous trunk. The second wind comes, but so does the counterbreath. Luis placed his palm on the bark, warned post like a warning. Kinshasa, 3 millionth breath bearer. Ray stood in a cobalt mine turned community farm. A young woman, Mireille, pressed glowing hands to a blighted cassava crop. Withered leaves unfurled, lush green. The crowd cheered. Ray felt it a click in the world's spine. Mireille was the 3 millionth awakened. Instantly, Ray's shadow deepened, stretching across the field like a protective cloak. In Mumbai, Vincent's healing glow brightened to solar radiance. In the Amazon, Christopher's shining hand summoned a thunderhead. The 300 gasped in unison across continents. The golden Nara's light shot skyward, splitting into 3 million threads of gold, connecting every breath-bearer in a shimmering neural net. The second wind had begun. Prague's counterbreath. Carol struck. He mixed JR's blood with the ashes of burned Codex Davidicus pages and sprayed it over Prague's old town square. Sanguis Davidus oxidate. David's blood dies. A wave of anti-grace rippled outward. In Berlin, a breath chapel's communal meal spoiled to maggots. In Lagos, Ray's shadow-healed warlords relapsed into violence. In Manila, the gray fog rolled from Pharmacorp labs, thick and despairing. People collapsed, not suffocating, but forgetting hope. Kindness, the taste of clean air. Luis felt the Nara's roots recoil underground. They're poisoning the well of breath. He radioed the accord. Vincent's gambit in gray fog Manila. Vincent walked into the smog unprotected. It coated his lungs like tar. Memories surfaced. JR bleeding in the warehouse. The 70% choking in Ramblan's judgment. No, he whispered. He drew breath not to heal, but to remember aloud. JR's blood wasn't wasted. It watered the Nara. It feeds us. His voice, amplified by 3 million networked souls, boomed through the smog. Each word glowed gold, etching itself in the haze. Fog-affected families stirred. A child drew the golden Nera in condensation on a window. A grandmother hummed a Bahagan lullaby. The gray fog thinned where memory fought back. Rees said a war, Raytrack, carol, to a bone chapel beneath St. Vitus Cathedral. The occultist chanted before a blackened Nera sapling grafted with JR's blood. The crown's light dies tonight. Ray stepped from the shadows. Light needs shadow to be seen. He breathed out the collective trauma of 3 million, not as darkness, but as acknowledged pain. The chapel walls wept blood-red tears. Carols chant faltered. You cat, guilt is my weapon. Ray advanced. Guilt chains. Shared pain liberates. He touched the black sapling. It absorbed Ree's breath and bloomed golden flowers. Carol screamed as the light hit him, not burning, but revealing his childhood abandonment, his hunger for power. He crumbled, sobbing. Make it stop. Ray knelt beside him. Breathe through it. The first wine did. The convergence at Scarborough Shoal. Louise Apelec and Christopher sailed to the pulsating golden reef. The counterbreath had reached it. Dead fish floated. Coral dinned. Christopher dove, not with tanks, with intent. He placed his hands on the reef, channeling the 3 million breath bearers. Vincent's healing warmth from Manila's fog lines. Rees liberated pain from Prague's crypt. Sister Angeli's slum kitchens. Shingu Four's songs. The reef flared. The golden light shot not skyward, but downward, through tectonic cracks, into the Earth's mantle. The planet itself shuddered a single, resonant note. The second Pentecost. Every human on Earth heard it, a deep, warm hum vibrating in their bones. Then, in Paris, the CEO dropped his briefcase, suddenly remembering his fisherman grandfather, and opened his riverside mansion to refugees. In Gaza and Tel Aviv, teenagers on both sides simultaneously sketched the golden Nera in school notebooks. In Fukushima, radioactive soil sprouted glowing wheat. In Pharmacorp labs, gray fog canisters cracked, releasing butterflies. The 3 million breath bearers didn't act. They breathed out, and the world breathed with them. The network light became the air itself. JR's return and release. At the Mindoro Grove, the golden Nera tree split open, not in destruction, in birth. JR stepped out, not as flesh, but as woven light, a being of breath and golden leaves. Oling Maria wept. Mangben touched his luminous shoulder, solid, warm. Anak. JR smiled. The seed becomes the wind. He walked to the shore where he died. The 300 and Luis gathered. The crown isn't mine now, JR said, his voice the rustle of a billion leaves. It's yours. The second wind is humanity awakening its own divinity. He raised his hands. The crown of light dissolved into 3 million plus 1 particles of gold, settling onto every person who'd ever taken a selfless breath. No more messiahs, only Capua, only breath. His form scattered like dandelion seeds on a breeze. The unforced kingdom. Breath chapels became simply breath homes anywhere people shared food, healed wounds, or planted seeds. The breath accord disbanded. Its work was done. Breath needed no bureaucracy. Money persisted, but wealth meant how many did you help breathe easier today. The golden Nera network faded, not gone, but woven into Earth's bioelectrical field, humming softly during acts of courage or kindness. Luis and Apelec sat under the now ordinary yet still radiant Nera tree. What now? Appa asked. Luis plucked a golden fruit, sweet, airy, tasting of hope. We breathe, we rest, we listen. Alcantar. 100 years later, a child knelt where JR's Nipa hut once stood, planting a Balatino rice seedling. The soil glinted faintly gold. Above, solar dirigibles shaped like shell-out hats patrolled not for enemies, but for forest fires or storm fronts. A holographic ray taught shadow dance therapy in the plaza. A descendant of Vincent's Mumbai clinic directed Manila's symphony of recycled rainwater. The child's seedling sprouted faster than nature allowed it. Tender green shoot curling toward the sun. An old woman, Myrail's great-granddaughter, placed a weathered wooden skull painted gold beside it. For the first wind, she whispered. The child breathed onto the seedling. It grew another inch. Somewhere, Deep in the earth's memory, a fisherman's son smiled. The second Pentecost wasn't an end. It was the first full breath of a world finally awake to its own sacredness.